Okay, now let's say the configuration of the VLAN. If you want to let the switch to do the function, how to divide the broadcast domain, how to make the interface to become access, how to make to become trunk, you have to add the configuration of the switch. And about the configuration, let's say, if here is our topology, we have one switch to connect with multiple terminals belong to different department. We can make one technology department to become VLAN 10 and finance to become VLAN 20. And the configuration step, the first one you have to create the VLAN. And creating the corresponding VLAN on each switch. Pay attention, do you still remember the available range of the VLAN ID? From 1 to 4094. If you don't create the VLAN by default, only VLAN 1 exists. If you want to use VLAN 10, VLAN 20, you have to create. After you create, then you have to configure the access interface if you use this interface to connect with terminals. Okay, so this is the second one. And if you add one interface into one VLAN, and then when we receive the message, I will directly add this VLAN information. If you have the interface connect with the switch, then you can make the interface to become trunk. And also, you can allow multiple VLAN pass-through. This is a key point. If you only configure the interface to become trunk, it's not enough. You have to define which VLAN can pass through on these interfaces. And the next step, after you finish the configuration, if all the terminals can do the communication successfully, it's very good. But not, maybe you can use this command to view the VLAN status and the port status. So there are 4 main steps when you use VLAN technology on your network. Then let's see the detail. What's the detail command, how to meet the requirement, how to create VLAN, how to check the VLAN status. The first one, how to create the VLAN. And the key command is on the global configuration, you have to use the key point VLAN and then give the VLAN ID. The second one, you also can give some name about the VLAN. Of course, this is the optional configuration. If you don't add the name, it doesn't matter. But if you give a clear name information, maybe it's better for us to maintain the VLAN information. And here is an example. On the global configuration, VLAN 10 is the VLAN ID. You cannot create VLAN 100,000, right? We already know the available range. And then give the name is IT. And the VLAN 20, the name is finance. Then the second one, we can create the access port. If this interface connects with some terminals, you can make the interface to become access port. The first one, you have to enter the interface, and then maybe it's a gigabit 00, maybe gigabit 01, depends on your real network. The second one, we have to switch the mode to become access. The third one, which is your PV ID, right? Switch access VLAN and give the VLAN ID. Of course, you have to create the VLAN at first. And this is a configuration of the access VLAN. And if you add this interface, for example, gigabit 00 to become access interface, and the VLAN ID is VLAN 10, that means this interface only can deal with VLAN 10. If you receive some VLAN 20 message, and this message cannot be forwarded out of the gigabit 00, so pay attention about this one. Of course, we also have the other configuration of the access. When you create the VLAN 10, you can directly add the interface into the VLAN. The same process, the same result when you do the configuration of the access interface. Usually, this command will be added on those interfaces connected with the terminal. And here is an example. You can interface to enter multiple interface, the range F0/122, and then switch the access VLAN to become 10. But pay attention about this one. The first command, you can enter multiple interface if in your plan that all the interfaces will connect with the terminal and belong to the same VLAN, and the configuration is same, you can directly enter multiple interfaces. And if you use this command, for example, 125, that means you will directly configure 5 interfaces, not about 1 and 5. Pay attention about this one. The second one, you will find we will directly to add the port to special VLAN, right? We don't use the command to change the mode to become access port. That's because depends on your real devices. Some devices, some vendor, the switch default mode is access. So you can directly to give the special PVID. But in some vendor, the mode maybe is trunk. Maybe the default mode is the other type, like hybrid. You have to change it to become the access at first and then give the PVID. So pay attention about this one. And also you can make the VLAN to a single one, interface 0/3 and change the access VLAN to become 20. So this is an example. And another one, if you want to add the trunk interface, first step, you also have to add into the interface. And then to switch the mode to become trunk. And another one, you can switch the trunk native VLAN for the special VLAN. And pay attention. About the trunk, we also have the native VLAN. We also can call this is a PVLAN. By default, the VLAN is VLAN 1. If you don't change, the default VLAN is VLAN 1. About the access also is same. If you use a cable to connect with the interface, and the interface, the lighter is gray, the physical layer and the data link layer is working, then the interface will belong to the VLAN 1. If you don't add the interface into any VLAN, or the switch, the interface will belong to VLAN 1. Okay, about the trunk also is same. But pay attention, the trunk native VLAN only can be one VLAN. For example, now you change the native VLAN to become VLAN 10. When I send the message out, I will delete the VLAN if the message VLAN is 10. When we receive the untagged VLAN, I will add the VLAN 10. So this is a function of the native VLAN. But you cannot make the other VLAN like 20, 30 also have the same function. No, about the trunk, native VLAN only can have one. And how to let multiple VLAN pass through this interface? You have to define which VLAN can be passed through. And the key command is switch trunk allow the VLAN. Maybe you can allow the VLAN all. That means from VLAN 1 to 4094, all the VLAN message can be sent out. Or maybe you can only add VLAN 10 and 20 on the VLAN list. So this one is a very important one, and we suggest on the real network only allow your service VLAN pass through. So pay attention about this part. And here also is the example. Enter the interface and to switch to become trunk, and then to enter a special interface. And about this interface, we will remove from 1 to 4094 at first. So about this configuration, also pay attention, depends on the real devices, because some switches by default, if you make the type to become trunk, this interface will allow all VLAN pass through. That's why we will remove all VLAN at first, and then we will allow VLAN add 10 and 20. So about this example, the interface gigabit Ethernet 0/2, this is a trunk interface. And finally, the native VLAN is VLAN 1 because we don't change the native VLAN. And only VLAN 10 and VLAN 20 can pass through. So pay attention about this part. And here is the configuration when we finish the create. How to delete the VLAN. For example, VLAN 10, now I don't want to use it. We will use the command no VLAN and VLAN 10. Create VLAN 10 is VLAN 10 in the global configuration. And how to view the configuration command. The command is show VLAN. For example, here you use the command show VLAN, you will find that we have VLAN 1, VLAN 10, and VLAN 20. And this data is static because we create manually, except VLAN 1. VLAN 1 exists by default. And all the interface will belong to VLAN 1, except the 1, 2, and 3, because we already add this interface into the access interface, right? So this is the configuration, how to check the VLAN. And here is an example. Now if we want the terminals belong to the same VLAN can do the communication with each other, like VLAN 10 and VLAN 20. The key command of the switch A is we can use VLAN 10 and add the interface gigabit 01. So this also is another way to make the interface to become access interface. It is same. If you enter the interface and then to switch mode to become 10 and switch the access VLAN to become 10, the same result. And then create VLAN 20, add the interface. And about the configuration of gigabit 024, you can switch the mode to become trunk. And the switch trunk allow VLAN only 10 and 20. If the connection of the physical interface is same with switch A, you can directly copy the configuration to switch B. Okay, pay attention about this part. But about all the interface connection number should be same. So this is a configuration of the VLAN. It's very easy, right? And another one, let's say the practice question. Which of the following are characteristic of the VLAN? A, B, C, and D, right? So what's the advantage? The second question is, which of the following hosts can communicate with each other? And pay attention about this topology. The left one, we have the PC 1, 2, 3, belong to VLAN 10, 20, and 30. And about the right one, PC 4 and PC 5, belong to the VLAN 10 and 20. This is access interface. And between the switch 1 and switch 2, this is the trunk interface. The left one, switch 1, the native is 30. Switch 2, the native is 20. So in this scenario, the communication between two PCs, who can do the communication with each other? With each other means when I send the message to you, you can give me the reply successfully. So A, B, C, and D was the correct result. Okay, if you want to know the detailed answer, please follow me about the next video. Thank you.
Hello guys! Now I think you already know the basic principle of the VLAN. So the function of the VLAN is to limit the range of broadcast domain. So if we want the switch to divide the different packets of the VLAN, we have to add the VLAN tag. So when the switch for the traffic, not only think about the MAC address, but we also have to consider about the VLAN tag information. And we have two types of the interface. One is access, and another one is a trunk. Access type usually used to connect with the user and only can deal with one VLAN. And about the trunk VLAN, we also will use between the devices. And about the trunk, we can allow multiple packets with different VLAN and then to follow the traffic. So if you want to know more detail about the VLAN, maybe we can do the practice according to the next video. Thank you.